Yeah, it'll do. All right. Check the data. Looks good. All right, greetings. So what's the topic right here? We'll read the thing on this board there. They made a new app, and apparently it's a gossip app for women to talk about men, which is what women have been doing since the dawn of time. What's my thoughts on it? Well, let's get into that. This is Freedom Phil. Like and subscribe, and yeah, always turn up the video speed when this goes uploads. You should be watching at least at 1.5 to 1.75. And always sub-whoring, trying to get up to 1,000 and then beyond. All right, let's get into it. The little gaggles of women talking to each other about whatever man in this town, whatever group, has since the dawn of time. It's a social network that's always existed to some degree. And for good or bad, you would want to know if there was a guy that was actually, smacking the shit out of a lady and all that shit. Okay, I guarantee you that. But more often than that, not generally, when you see something like this, it's the same thing over and over again. You'll have a bitter ex-girlfriend that goes on there and just talks mountains of shit about her ex. And by the way, this ironically might be bad for Chad and Tyrone, the Thundercock brothers. Chad slept with me and he left, didn't call me back. Yeah, but how was it? Oh, it was fucking amazing. He's a convict. I'm just saying, women will do that. And it's not the first time these sort of things have happened. In fact, the problem, I'm going to tell you the problem I have with it. It's not only that women will go on there and just talk malicious shit about people, as they always have. It's that they'll basically, if there's someone that, told her that he's not into her or something, they'll just go and smear someone's image. And if you don't think that won't be used by the people that shouldn't have any power or control over you getting hired to begin with, and that is who? HR. And thank God that HR departments are getting fired for robots. Because, as others have referred to it, this group of Ben Grissett witches that are trying to manipulate the situation, to get the perfect man. If those that don't know what the reference was, put the book series. I myself am not an intensely good-looking man. I am not. I am an ogre of a man. I am a large, lumbering thing, big, nasty ogre. I'm not a mean person. I'm an asshole sometimes, but that's the thing. I have had people smear my name before, and we'll come back to that. If you don't think women, by the way, if you don't think women do this thing of talking about each other's, I got a theory for you. And I call it the sleeper scout. Or in some cases, I'll tell you a thing about a medieval fair. Some of these medieval fairs, if you wear a kilt, there was this woman, and she would go around and she'd say, well, can I do a kilt check on you? See if you're regimental. Tran, you want to know what that is? See if you're wearing underwear. And she would basically come up and fondle dudes' balls. And you know what she was really doing. She kind of get a feel there. You see how long the elephant's trunk went down? Now, she was a 50 to something year old woman. And whatever, she probably just enjoyed it. She was just a perv. But don't think for a minute that she wasn't selling that information or something to every listening female ear around. Oh, well, this man over here has this. And that women do that shit. Like even if he was a douchebag, oh God, but God, he had the meat, But on the other hand, what if it's the situation where they're just basically, you could be the best guy in the world, you could be a decent guy, but people are, talking shit about you. And that's what has happened in the past. You guys remember what happened to the colleges, 7, maybe 10 years ago, maybe a little further now, I think about it, where they basically had little groups, this guy's at this guy's at that, basically smearing people, and all because somebody got dumped. Yeah, I'm glad when those groups got sued out of existence, when those colleges, all their Star Chamber bullshit, you were accused of this. Is there a police report? What the fuck? Ruining people's lives based on rumors, gossip. I mean, think for a second. Can you imagine if there was the male version of this? Oh yeah, she's good in the sack, but the bitch is crazy. You know, she's as crazy as a fucking pigtailed chick fucking emptying a box of Fruit Loops in the living room. Ah! But she's good in the sack. That would be the guy version of it. Do you think women would like that shit? Oh no, they'd hate it. And they'd be like, you're harassing us. Oh yeah, but when women do it to guys, you know, and what about ogres like myself? Let me tell you a little story from back in the day. I've never forgotten this. I was working at this particular trucking company. I didn't say anything much of anything. I'd say, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing fine, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, I got to go visit the family. And I don't smile much naturally. You know, I usually have this put on your war face, you know? And you know how women work off vibes, feelings? And one thing I find intensely funny is how you can have a bunch of douchers saying a bunch of shit and women will pass on that stuff. But then you say one thing that's not even, it's like kid gloves with pillows attached to it. And they're like, ah! Well, I had a situation where some chick, for whatever reason, felt weird about me or something. And I was walking away, picked up my paperwork to go pick up this load. And I heard someone whisper, he looks like someone that would do it, but he's smart enough to get away with it. You don't think that people, when they start talking like that, that doesn't make it around the whole fucking office? And I'm just a guy driving a truck trying to make a living, and I got to deal with that fucking discrimination? And what's my recourse? It's just like a lot of times. There's been times when people, I know they've slighted me in some way. And I'd like to give a righteous fucking meteor punch to put their fucking face against the concrete, because that's what they really deserve. But then I go to jail, so I can't react. I just gotta let shit fucking slide unless I got enough evidence to prove that someone is literally fucking ruining me. That does damage to people when people start putting reputations like that to people. And I don't for 1 minute have any lack of belief that women that have been like, look, you gave your ass up to some guy, some Chad, some this, or your boyfriend was a dick, you're a bitch and he was a dick. You know, I don't, just wait. It'll start happening with this app where women will basically go out there talking shit. And I hope to God, every guy that finds out what's going on, because it's only women only. Women only, huh? Well, that's gender discrimination to begin with. Women should have their spaces and men should have their spaces. But the point of it is, when you make this little Ben Grissett gaggle of witch situation where it's like, I'm here with it, no proof necessary, no criminal records. And by the way, you know, in the same way that as a side note, I personally believe before you get really serious with anybody, there should be a credit check. There should be a criminal background check. There should be a lot of things. In fact, that's part of the criteria. Yeah, use it against women and watch how quickly they're like, what do you mean? Well, turns out you slashed a guy's tires and you're $150,000 in debt, mostly for student loans for shit, and the other part for just useless crap. Like, if every guy had that, like, listing for women before they even dated them, oh God, how much fucking easier it would be. So I actually sort of agree with doing background checks on people. You want to know if they're a criminal. But just having, like, anonymous people or random, oh yeah, I dated him and he was me. And then of course you'll have the situation with Chad. Yeah, Chad Slong was like, oh my God, it was like a Pringles can with veins and it was like a fucking baby arm of an apple, but he didn't call me. And you know, and then there'll be that weird quandary thing for the women. Oh God, Pringles can with veins, 6-pack, but he's a douche. Oh, I'm so hot for that. But then what happens to the rest of the guys that are just normal guys trying to get by? And by the way, a lot of my people, we have just walked the fuck away. We're just like, well, yeah, have fun with that. I'm not signing that contract. I'm not doing this. I'm not working myself into an early grave. You know, I don't want to be that short from the Married with Children of Al Bundy's, you know, going through all the miserable shit and then saying the fact that he doesn't put a gun in his mouth at the end of the day means he's won. He's a winner. No, fuck that. That's why you got passport bros as well. Guys are like, I want to go to a country that actually supports, normal relationships. But yeah, I see this app blowing up. Then I see this app getting sued into oblivion. And then I see it disappearing. And I hope it goes all the way to Apple, because if Apple or Google approve this crap, yes, there should be a huge class action lawsuit based on that, because okay, I know. Okay, let me give you another story from way back in the day. There was a guy in my hometown who, there was this chick she was into him. This guy was kind of on and off problems with the cops, and dude fucking ran drugs, stole drugs, and she wanted to be with him because he was alright looking, but drugs, free place to live. But she was a skank, and I'm not talking like that's not a joke. She literally blew a bunch of punkers at the punk house, and when she passed out, they literally put change in her butthole. I wasn't there. I had nothing to do with it, but like that, and she wasn't even mad about that. But at one of these parties, she was all fucking sloppy and fucking, and she was trying to get with the dude, and he's like, "I don't want your skanky ass." Pushed her off, and she ended up calling the cops and saying that he SA'd this chick. And of course, the judge already hated his ass. The cops hated his ass. They'd had many run-ins. The guy had a little bit of he had a bad family and all that shit. So when he was in jail, he's like, "I'm not getting out of here. It's her word against mine. The fucking judge hates me." So the guy hung himself. Came out later that she admitted that she was just pissed off. Now, he's dead. He's been dead for, 15, 20 years. 20 years now. Way over 20. God, I was back in the old era. Yeah, he's been dead for long enough for her at this point, and she's probably been living on Section 8 the whole fucking time, taking my tax dollars. She never did one day in jail for that. He's in the ground. So reputation does matter. The words of people does matter. And so when they talk about this little gossip app and that type of shit, yeah, I hope if anybody gets smeared on that shit, they sue the fuck out of these people. Because I'm sick and tired of seeing this crap where you can run someone's name through the mud. And by the way, let me talk about the chilling effect this will have for your country. If you think guys aren't going to work now, they may not go by the name, but these men will be going their own way, because they're like, wow, they're getting the frozen treatment because some bitch just thought, you remember that case where that homeless guy was outside of a grocery store and he was just kind of staring into space because he stared at a woman and made her feel uncomfortable? They arrested him and threw him in jail. It's like, what? And by the way, like I did that video ages ago, men are a 7th class citizen. I wasn't kidding. Yeah. You have a society that already presets you if you're not Mr. Right, Mr. This. Like Mr. Right can get away with a lot of things. Is that if you're some sort of deviant or predator. They ask you to be a father, but then they act like you're some sort of sicko. They ask you to save America. If the war comes, you're going to fight. You treat these guys this way. To me, it reminds me of people saying, well, why are the butterflies and bees gone? And you just keep on throwing pesticides at them. And if they're lucky, if the insects are smart enough, they're going to some other place, a national park, some hidden, secluded place where they can just live. And yeah, you're going to see less men be willing to be less productive, less patriotic. They're not going to want to approach. And by the way, ladies, here's a pro tip. How about you start approaching men? I'm not the first to say this, but I think it's genius. If there's a guy you're into, just say, hey, what's going on? You're kind of, like, hey, hello, handsome, and most guys, huh? Like, well, no, you never do that. But yeah, this app, I think, will crash and burn horribly and cost a lot of money to a lot of people and ruin a lot of lives. So that's my thoughts. Peace.